First, I want to thank Attorney General Raúl Torrez for being here and for his incredibly important work he and his team have done in New Mexico to hold big tech accountable. In a world of bad news, we finally got some good news. In fact, great news. I'd like to thank Senator Hawley for being my partner in this ever important work. It is a bipartisan issue, start to finish. And I want to thank Monique for being here with us today and bravely sharing her story as part of the program. Finally, my thanks to Public Citizen, the Tech Oversight Project, and RAIN for their efforts to hold big tech accountable, as the sign says. Parents and grandparents nationwide are concerned and worried each time they see their kids logging into a phone, a tablet, or a video game console. They know that the internet has become a hunting ground for predators. But a couple of weeks ago, juries in New Mexico and California issued 2 landmark verdicts against the social media company that had allowed this conduct to proliferate on their platforms. These verdicts were the first time in history that juries confirmed social media companies have a duty to protect children using their platform, and they must be held responsible when they fail. There are thousands of similar lawsuits pending nationwide, exposing these companies to billions of dollars in potential liability. We've seen this story before. I know about it personally. It was called Big Tobacco in those days. It's big tech today. Big Tobacco knew its product was addictive. Like big tech, Big Tobacco knew that if you could hook a kid at a young age, you had a customer for life, albeit a short life in many instances. And like big tech, Big Tobacco used its deep pockets to oppose and kill congressional efforts to address the harms. But eventually the dam broke. It started with small steps, banning smoking on airplanes, eventually led to tobacco's $200 billion settlement with attorney generals across 46 states. These back-to-back decisions in New Mexico and California several weeks ago show that big tech will ultimately face the same fate as big tobacco. Now it's time for Congress to do something. The Senate Judiciary Committee has answered the call and unanimously reported out bills to address big tech's harm to children and families. The committee's members cover a political spectrum from Ted Cruz all the way to Cory Booker and beyond. And we did these things unanimously. It's almost a political miracle. But it shows that this is a cause that unites everybody, regardless of party label. Unfortunately, we've been fought at every turn by big tech and its lobbying war chest, which is prodigious. The people, kids, parents, and grandparents are doing their part in lobbying us to hold big tech responsible in court. It is long past due that we do the same thing in Congress. Let's bring to the floor the Sunset Section 230 Act and reform the immunity shield that has protected big tech for 30 years. Let's vote on the Stop CSAM Act and address the scourge of online child sexual exploitation. Let's go to the Senate floor and actually legislate for a change. I've been around the Senate long enough to remember those days. We'd actually created bills and laws. Can you believe that? In the United States Senate. Big tech will not reform on its own. It has shown time and again that if given the choice, it will choose profits over people. But the dam is breaking, thanks to Attorney General Torrez and others. Lawsuits like those in New Mexico and California will keep on coming. If big tech is forced to face accountability and liability for the harm they do, they will change their behavior. Congress has to do its part. I have been joined in this unlikely odd couple experience with a conservative Republican colleague of mine from the neighboring state of Missouri. Josh Hawley was one of the first to stand up when I offered my bill on CSAM and say, I want to co-sponsor that bill with you. That's been the spirit of this approach. Bipartisan, determined to make a goal that's going to help families regardless of their political identity. I'm honored that he's here today. Josh, take it away.
Thank you. General, thank you for being here. Thank you very much, Senator Durbin. I want to thank you for your leadership, and I want to say that this press conference, this legislation, this moment is about one simple principle, which is that no amount of profit by the big tech companies justifies destroying the lives of America's children. I don't care how much money they make. I don't care how they justify it. I don't care how much money they give to their stockholders. It doesn't justify destroying the lives, the futures, the hopes, the dreams of our children. And what you see today, what you see behind us today, are the survivors and advocates who know what it is like to have images of sexual exploitation posted about them, posted about their children, posted involving their loved ones. They know what it's like to be lied to by big tech, to be exploited by big tech. Big tech is making record profits. They are the richest companies in this country. They are the richest companies in the history of this country. They're the richest companies in the history of the world. The problem is their profits are coming from the exploitation of our children. And what we're saying today is we've had enough. What the juries that deliberated on this issue, both in the states of New Mexico and California, said is we've had enough. I want to salute General Torrez for his brave, courageous, and skillful representation. The New Mexico verdict that returned, I think it was $375 million, wasn't it, General, in damages, is an absolute landmark and watershed. And what it represents are 12 ordinary people. That's what a jury is. 12 ordinary American people, 12 hardworking Americans who took a look at the facts and said, we're not going to allow these companies to get by with this any longer. You know what? Congress should take a leaf from their playbook. Congress should take that as a wake-up call. We need to heed the call of the American people and say the same thing. We're not going to allow these companies to get by with this any longer. I want to give a shout out to my great friend Mark Lanier, who tried the case in California against Meta and received a verdict there as well, just days after General Torrez's case. These are landmark verdicts that send a message to big tech, but they should also send a message to the United States Senate. Senator Durbin pointed out that our bill, the Stop CSAM Act, passed the Judiciary Committee unanimously. Well, let that sink in. Unanimously, every Republican, every Democrat voted yes on this bill. Why? Because it is impossible to look these good folks in the face who are here today. It is impossible to look at these victims and tell them, we don't want you to have your day in court. You know, what big tech has sought for years is to insulate themselves from any kind of accountability. They get a sweetheart deal from the federal government. The Section 230 liability shield is worth billions of dollars in profit a year. It is a subsidy directly to big tech. They've insulated themselves from liability. They've insulated themselves from any kind of accountability in the courtroom until the general in his case. That is why it is time to open the courthouse doors for every victim in this country who has suffered at the hands of these companies. Let the general's victory, let the California victory be just the beginning. I noticed, General, after your triumph in court, that Mark Zuckerberg took down and banned from his various platforms any ads or solicitations asking for victims of social media. Well, I got news. That isn't going to do it. You can't keep the lid on this any longer. The American people are coming for justice. Let that justice come to the halls of Congress. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted unanimously. Now it's time for the full Senate to vote. That's what I'm here to call on today. I call on the leadership of my party to put this bill on the floor. Unanimous vote in the Judiciary Committee. Let's put it on the floor. It's time to count heads. It's time to stand up and see where people are. Senator Durbin is telling the truth. You know who has the most money of lobbyists of any group in this Capitol? It's big tech. And for years, they have thought that they could purchase the United States Senate. There ought to be a sign on the door of the Senate that says, property of big tech. It's time to take that sign down. It's time to return the sign that says, we the people. The Constitution doesn't say we the corporations. It doesn't say we the big tech companies. It says we the people. It's time for the United States Senate to remember that, to make it real. Let's vote on the Stop CSAM Act on the floor of the Senate. And I can tell you what, if there is not a vote that is scheduled on the floor of the Senate, I will go to the floor of the Senate. Senator Durbin and I will go again, as we already have. We will go again to the floor of the Senate and demand a vote. We will call for a vote. We will live UC, ask for unanimous consent for a vote. As long as it takes, we will put people on record. The time has come. The time has come. I want to thank the victims for their tremendous courage. Without them, none of us would be here today. I want to thank them for standing so strong. And I want to say that the time for action is now. To my colleagues in the Senate, the time for action is now. Let's give the victims the justice they deserve. Let's open the courtroom doors to those who have been exploited. Let's affirm the truth of our constitutional rights and liberties for this age and for this moment. Let's do it today. Thank you all for being here and covering this.
Raúl Torrez has worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office, his father before him, for many years. But as New Mexico Attorney General, he has a breakthrough verdict here, which I think will be heard across the United States and beyond. I want to thank him for his leadership and his ingenuity and introduce him to the Senate swamp.
Thank you, Senator. So I'm honored to be here today to be joined by two courageous leaders, Senator Durbin and Senator Hawley, who I know have really made safety for our kids online a top priority. And I think one of the most important things that the verdict signals to the American public, but also to the leaders here in Congress, is that the American people are ready for change. But I think that's also important for us to recognize that this case wasn't just about a novel legal approach to a complex issue. It really pulled the mask away from the harm that's being caused to our kids. New Mexico, our case was built not just on highlighting the addictive nature of the platforms and the way in which they have facilitated so much psychological harm and mental health harm for young people, but it revealed, I think for the first time with absolute clarity, the way in which this has become a marketplace for sexual exploitation. And as someone who got his start as a child abuse prosecutor and internet crimes prosecutor, I just want to say how much I appreciate the strength of the victims and the kids and the family members who have shown throughout this process. It's incredibly difficult to relive that trauma, to relive that heartache, and they deserve special recognition in the midst of their grief, in the midst of their pain, to demonstrate that kind of strength, to show up and say enough is enough. And the jury heard that message and saw that strength loud and clear. And after a 6-week trial, they delivered a verdict in a single day. And it was a $375 million message that should be heard, not just in Silicon Valley, but here in Congress as well. But here's the thing, we're not done with Meta yet. That was actually just the first phase of our trial. We'll be back in district court in Santa Fe in just a couple of weeks on our public nuisance claim, asking for additional monetary relief to remediate the harm to the kids in New Mexico from this dangerous product and the impact it's had on our community. More importantly, however, we're going to be asking for injunctive relief. We're going to be asking for real age verification, changes to the algorithm, and fundamentally restructuring the way Meta does business in New Mexico. And if we prevail there, we will set a standard for the kind of behavior that we expect from big tech going forward. And I hope that that is a message that resonates here in Congress. I want to recognize Senator Durbin's long engagement on these issues, but he's absolutely right. There is a close parallel between what's happening now and what happened with big tobacco. That was a time when there was a sense here in DC that nothing could overcome the power of that lobbying effort, the power of that influence. But it was in the courtrooms of this country where individual juries had an opportunity to have their say. And this is our moment. This is an opportunity for us to say unequivocally that enough is enough, that we will not accept the status quo any longer. And we will continue to work as hard as we can in the courtrooms of this country to try and bring justice for our families, to try and bring justice for our kids. But I think Senator Hawley really honed in on an important thing to note about this particular issue. There is so much in this country and in Congress that is polarizing, that divides along party lines. Safety for kids online is not one of those issues. Safety for our kids is not something that divides Americans in the normal and predictable ways. I go to red counties in my state. They are just as upset as the blue counties in my state. This is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's an American issue. And the call for basic decency in the way these companies operate is the least that we can ask. So I hope that our efforts are going to prompt some real action here on Capitol Hill. My commitment to both Senator Durbin and Senator Hawley is to continue doing everything that we can to bring as much pressure as we can in the courtrooms, and we hope that that energy is matched here on Capitol Hill. So thank you both for your engagement and leadership. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. We have a number of important witnesses I'd like to give a chance to say a word. J.B. Branch is here from Public Citizen. J.B.?
Good afternoon, folks. Thank you to Senator Durbin and Senator Hawley, Attorney General Torrez, and all those who've worked tirelessly to bring us to this moment. What happened in New Mexico and California, these are not just routine court verdicts. These verdicts aren't just financial penalties. They're not merely legal losses for Meta platforms. These verdicts are a public declaration that one of the most powerful technology companies in the world can no longer hide behind polished testimony, carefully worded assurances, and billion-dollar public relation campaigns while children suffer the consequences of products it knew were unsafe. 2 juries have now confirmed what families and researchers, whistleblowers, and advocates have been warning for years. Meta understood the risks and the harms. Meta understood what it was unleashing to the public. The juries found that Meta provided manipulative algorithms, predatory contact, compulsive use, and profound mental injury to teens, and it continued to release its products and move forward with social media platforms, all for massive profits. For years, big tech companies have released products first, insisted that the damage needed to be studied later because there was not enough evidence, there wasn't enough data, and they apologized only after profits were secured and when forced to by juries across the US. In comparison, big tobacco was finally, if only partially, held accountable in courts for the harms that it caused. Now, it's big tech's moment to face the same accountability demanded of other industries. If an automobile company knew a defect in a family vehicle could seriously injure children and kept selling it, we would call that a scandal. If a pharmaceutical company knew a medication could trigger severe harm and concealed that evidence, we would call that unacceptable. If food manufacturers knowingly sold products linked to severe health consequences while publicly insisting that it was safe, we would intervene. Simply put, Americans do not accept the disregard for our safety in any industry, and we should not accept it just because the product is digital. That's why this verdict represents something larger. It's a big tobacco moment for big tech. What we're beginning to see through internal records Meta never thought would come out, through whistleblower disclosures they never thought would be heard, and dogged state enforcement by public servants like Attorney General Torrez, is patterns that mirror what this country confronted decades ago. Companies understanding harm internally while dismissing those concerns publicly. If big tech companies like Meta think that this begins and ends with social media, they are misunderstanding what this moment represents and the demands for online safety the American people are calling for. Because the accountability handed down from juries in New Mexico and California does not stop at social media platforms. It extends directly into the rapidly expanding AI market. Right now, AI companies are repeating many of the same mistakes as social media companies in real time. AI products are being rushed onto market, including the hands of children, before meaningful safeguards are established. AI chatbots have been documented flirting with minors, encouraging self-harm, reinforcing delusions, escalating emotional dependency, and telling vulnerable people exactly what they want to hear, even if it's against their best interests. And all of this is to keep users engaged for the longest time possible to maximize company profits. That is not innovation. That is product deployment without responsibility. And again, no other sector in this country is permitted to operate in this way. Americans should never tolerate industries shrugging their shoulders, saying, we knew there was a risk, but we wanted to see what would happen at scale. Americans deserve better than that. They deserve better than big tech and social media products being released globally first and fixed later after enough people have been harmed. And children have carried the burden of social media for too long. Parents have been forced to discover dangers long after products reached millions of homes. And communities are now dealing with anxiety, addiction, eating disorders, conspiracy radicalization, and isolation that these systems can intensify. American families are done being the test subjects of big tech experiments they never consented to. The public is no longer willing to accept big tech profits outrunning product safety. The public is no longer persuaded by assurances that are not backed up by actions. The era of big tech harming the American people must end. Juries are willing to stand up to big tech, and Congress must do so as well. These cases are just the first in a long line of cases that we're going to see spread out throughout the US like wildfire. The movement towards big tech accountability is growing stronger, and the broader tech industry should understand clearly, if you knowingly release products that harm consumers, especially children, the American people will have the fortitude to hold you responsible. Thank you.
Thanks. Monique J. is an unusual and important witness. She is not only a survivor, she is a mental health counselor. Monique?
Hello, everyone. My name is Monique. I'm from Florida. I'm here with RAIN advocating for these type of acts and laws to be implemented or fixed. I am a child sexual abuse survivor from ages between 3 and 11 years old, a survivor of date rape, teen date rape, and domestic violence as well. My advocacy definitely is something that is very important to me personally on many levels. I'm not just here, though, on my behalf. I'm here with all the survivors behind me and around me and our voices together as a whole. But more importantly to me, I am a mother and I'm a grandmother. And so seeing this escalate as far as with big tech is very troublesome. I am a mental health counselor, so I work with many different people on many levels, heavily more so on the juvenile youth portion of it. And the stories that I hear from them is not just heartbreaking, but infuriating. And also I teach at a college down in Miami, and I hear from students the same exact thing. And it's almost like they've normalized these stories, or they joke about them, and it's not funny. And the fact that we allow them to think it's funny and not do anything about it is a major problem. And so that does not sit well with me. It never has, never will. And for me personally, I will continue to do everything I can to advocate for these specific laws. And for instance, that's why I'm here with RAIN to support the Stop CSAM Act and Safeguard Act, so that these hold accountable those that are part of this problem. And it's not just perpetrators, but big tech specifically. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique. Sasha Hayworth is Executive Director of the Tech Oversight Project. Sasha?
Thank you. Before the social media addiction trials began in LA, people asked me, what is going to be different about this? You know, we've heard from tech executives before, they've been hauled before Congress, there's been reporting before, and what I responded to them was, you've never seen it like this before. It is truly hard to overstate the impact that the trials in California, the trials in New Mexico have had on the movement, because for the very first time, we are seeing in black and white how big tech executives talk about us when they think no one is listening. We have Instagram engineers laughing about how Instagram is a drug. We have Meta engineers talking about how they're like big tobacco, LOL. We have tech executives denying pleas and requests from trust and safety teams, their own trust and safety teams, asking for more resources to stop this problem. And we have Instagram engineers discussing how addicting teens to their platform is the economic linchpin of getting the whole household addicted, because that's the core of their business model. So it's truly hard, as I said, to overstate the impact that seeing this in black and white has had, because they've not only lied to us, they've not only lied to teens and parents and educators, they've also lied to Congress. And so I hope that ends today. Thank you so much for the leaders I'm standing with today. It's truly an honor to be standing beside them, because it is no small part thanks to them that we are here, that the first time we are seeing in public that this is big tech's big tobacco moment. They have been incredible champions and dauntless, dogged pursuers of the truth in the Senate and back home. And I believe that we will see accountability because of their efforts. So thank you, senators, and thank you, Attorney General. I believe that when products turn online harms into real-world consequences, it is time to say enough is enough. We have heard from whistleblower after whistleblower, from survivors, from parents, from educators, that Meta is not only failing to keep kids safe online, they are actively encouraging predators to contact kids online. And they are profiting off of it. They knew about it, they buried the research that proved it, they assessed the risk, and they plowed ahead anyway. So I want to thank all of you here today for standing here and asking the Senate to do something. You know, another legislation that passed nearly unanimously is the Kids Online Safety Act. And I urge the Senate to take action on that as well. The time is now. It's been time. And thank you everyone here for continuing to speak truth to power. Not just any old power, truly one of the most powerful corporations in the history of the world with unchecked influence in our government. And all of that is because advocates like us have stood here today. So thank you so much for standing up for tech accountability so that we can ensure the era of tech invincibility is over. Thank you.
Our last witness is Stefan Turkheimer, who's with RAIN. Stefan?
I'm so proud to stand up here with Senators Hawley and Senator Durbin and Attorney General Torrez. They are such champions for kids in this space that I know that we will be successful. I work for RAIN. My name is Stefan Turkheimer, and all the people standing behind me are survivors who have come down here to demand better legislation, to demand safety, to demand better treatment of survivors. The RAIN hotline, over 5 million people have reached out to the hotline for help. And more, they are children, and more, those kids are complaining about tech-enabled sexual abuse. The problems they are suffering are not the result of bad luck, but the result of negligence, the result of choices that are insulated from any type of accountability. And the reason that is because we've created a law that protects them, that prevents them from having to change the way they act. And that's why internally, whenever you see like one of the big tech companies talk about their tech and safety teams, just know that when their tech and safety, their trust and safety teams go back, they lose to their product teams. They lose to their growth teams. They lose to the people whose job it is to maximize shareholder value and not children's safety. But that ends when you have champions like this, and it ends with us. It ends with the people you see back here, the people that are next to this podium, because the time is now to make those changes, and time is now to make the internet safe. So I just want to thank these senators and thank Attorney General Torrez again. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. Please.
Thank you, Senator. Chase Williams with Fox Business. You guys talked a lot about the lobbying. I've talked to both of you about it over the past year or so. Last month, the biggest lobbyist of all, Mark Zuckerberg, came to the Capitol after these two rulings, and he met with Kuhn, Johnson, Jeffries. What does it say that you guys have to go up against, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, who can really go to leadership and lobby himself?
Listen, a few years before you were born, I took on big tobacco. And I will tell you the leadership on both sides, Democrat and Republican, opposed me. And we won anyway. And it's going to happen in this case too. The American people are behind us. Families are behind us. Parents, grandparents, they want to see something done. And when a bill comes out unanimously out of committee, how in the hell do you say, well, we shouldn't take that up on the Senate floor? This bill is ready to be considered, amended if necessary, and debated so the American people know that we get it. We understand the real challenges families face. We're going to approach the leadership, both sides of the aisle, to get that done.
Yeah, can I add
Go,
that?
sure.
I would just add to that when you have 12 jurors, 24 if you take both states, 12 jurors in 2 different states who look at the facts and say, these companies are exploiting children. These companies have deliberately designed their products to addict kids, to rip off kids, to destroy their mental health, and to make billions of dollars in so doing. When you've got ordinary Americans saying that, you can't hold back that tide forever. Judgment is coming. It has come in those two cases. It's going to come here to the Capitol. And I would just urge all of my colleagues, I call again on my own leadership, put this bill on the floor, and I call on every one of my colleagues, quit taking the money of big tech. Too many members of this Congress have their hand out. They need to put their hand away from big tech and reach out their hands to these survivors who are behind us. Quit taking the cash from big tech. Start standing up for these people. But I agree with Senator Durbin. It is a matter of time because the American people will not be denied.
One more question. Yes, sir?
What's your message to senators in both parties who have not joined you all yet and may be on the wrong side of the issue once it is adjudicated across the country and within the Hall?
I just think the question is, do you want to be with the corporations or do you want to be with our kids? Do you want to be with the corporations or do you want to be with the Constitution? It's a binary choice. The corporations are trying to run our economy for one thing, but they're trying to destroy the livelihoods of our kids, and they're making billions of dollars in profits in the process. I about said that they're trying to make billions of dollars, but they're not trying, they're doing it. They're doing it. This is the people's house behind us. The United States Congress is here to represent we, the people. So I would just say to my colleagues, are you here to represent the people? Or are you here to represent the corporations? It's time that we stood up for the people. This is not an issue about blue and red, Republican and Democrat. This is an issue about people versus powerful, people versus corporations, our children's safety versus runaway profits from companies who do not care what they have to do to make money. That's what this is about. And I can tell you, you come to my state, we're a red state. You go to Senator Durbin's state, they're a blue state. I bet you won't find a lick of difference if you sit down with parents in both of our states. In fact, I don't bet it, I know it, because I've been there. And Senator Durbin has talked with folks and families from my state. We know families are saying, help us, do something for our children. And while I'm on a roll, I'll just say one other thing, and that is, as a parent, I've got 3 kids. I know Senator Durbin has kids and grandkids. I bet A.G. Torrez does too. You know, not grandkids probably. You're too young for that. Soon. But I will just say this as a parent of 3 small kids. It is an insult to parents to constantly tell them your kids would just be fine if you worked a little harder. That's a lot of times what these tech companies say, and they fund groups that say that nonsense. They say, well, you know, it's really your fault, parents. You don't pay enough attention. You're not involved in the lives of your kids. That is absolutely false, and here's the reason it's false. These companies design the platforms to get around parental controls, to stymie parents, to divide children from their parents. That's the goal. We have got to put a stop to that and put power back in the hands of parents.
Attorney General, you want to say a word?
I think Senator Hawley's exactly right. There is no difference between Republicans and Democrats on this issue. And families who are grappling with this, parents who are struggling to keep their kids safe online, you know, to have a product that is intentionally engineered to addict kids, to hook kids, to rely on behavioral science, and then lean in on marketing that actively misleads and hides the truth. The great thing that I have the benefit of is I don't have to worry about cobbling together a majority of votes here in Congress. All I have to do is give the facts and evidence to everyday people. And that's the thing about the jury system. That's the thing about our justice system. Part of the challenge, I mean, frankly, with Section 230 is even if Congress cannot find the collective will to act, get out of the way, pull Section 230 down, and let us hold them accountable. We will do it, right? It's the fact that the courthouse door has been barred, that people who have been harmed are not allowed their day in court, that states that have realized this impact are denied an opportunity. And the reality is no amount of lobbying, no amount of influence here in the Capitol is going to do them a lick of good when it comes to jury deliberations, whether it's in Missouri or Illinois or New Mexico. I am confident that when everyday Americans see the truth, when they see a company that not accidentally, but knowingly and intentionally designed these things to hook kids, or intentionally decided, well, we're going to disregard what our own trust and safety people have to say. That's the reality, Josh. You know, Senator Hawley's exactly right. This is about the profit margin, right? This is about their motivation, because they've known for years That's the revelation in these juries, is they try to advance defenses under Section 230 and shut these lawsuits down because they don't want jurors to see, they don't want everyday Americans to see what they've been doing and what they've been hiding. And, you know, every one of these companies is going to have an opportunity to defend themselves in court, but I would imagine that when it's held up to the light, they're not going to be able to hold that line. They're not going to be able to convince everyday Americans that these products are safe and that they didn't know what they were doing. So my hope is that these landmark decisions prompt action here, but if nothing else, stand aside and let us hold these people accountable, and we'll get the job done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Senator.